quadratic formula. Opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A, b, and c are the values in front of x squared, value in front of x, and then the constant. But it must be equal to 0. So the first thing you do is you pick out the a, the b, and the c. A is 1, b is 4, c is negative 3. It is equal to 0, so you can just pick out the a, b, c, and plug it into the formula. X equals opposite b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You can do each of these parts a little bit separately. There's nothing to do in the front because it's just negative 4 plus or minus. Underneath the square root, I do two separate parts. This first one, 4 squared, is 16, and this second part is negative 4 times 1 times negative 3, which is 12. And then I also simplify the bottom, which is 2. Then you simplify underneath the square root. Opposite of 4 plus or minus the square root of 28 all over 2. Now the square root of 28 is a decimal. So we're going to see what the square root of 28 is. And then once you get that decimal, you're going to do negative 4 plus the decimal, hit enter, divided by 2, and see what you get. And then you'll do negative 4 minus that decimal, and then divided by 2, and see what you get. There will be 2. So once you did the square root of 28, you got your decimal, and you had your 2 decimal answers. Round to 2 decimal places. It doesn't say up here, right, your answer says decimals. 2 decimal places where you should be. The next problem shows another quadratic. However, it is not equal to 0. It must be equal to 0 in order to pick out the ABC. So go ahead and subtract 7 from both sides, and then this will be equal to 0. 2x squared plus 4x minus 7 equals 0. Now you pick out your A, your B, your C, and plug those into the formula. X equals opposite B plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Simplify out front, so you have negative 4 plus or minus. Simplify the 2 parts underneath, that's 16, that's negative 28. Oh, that's a negative 7. 28, 56. So a negative and a negative is plus, and then all over 4. So when I simplify, it's negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 72 all over 4. The square root of 72 is 8.485, so I'm going to round to 8.49. So it's negative 4 plus 8.49 divided by 2, and negative 4 minus 8.49. Oops, sorry, that's a 4. Divided by 4. Divided by 4. This one right here comes out to be the positive is 1.121, and the negative comes out to be negative 3.121. And always double check by going to your Desmos, typing in the original. I actually didn't type in the original, I typed in where I solved. You could type in the original, it should give you the same answers. So then you get your 2 x-intercepts. So you click on them and that'll tell you what the x-intercepts are. It's a way to check your answers. Third problem, again, not equal to 0. So subtract 6x, and make sure you're putting it in the right order. It's the x term, so it goes in the middle. Negative 6x plus 10 equals 0. Pick out your A, pick out your B, pick out your C, plug them in. X equals opposite B plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you'll notice that I'm putting these in parentheses, because if you have the opposite of a -6, that turns into +6. Underneath the square root, when you take -6 squared, because the parentheses are there, it's +36. And then over here is -40. All over 2. Then I work out the underneath here, 6 plus or minus, rut-row. That's a negative. If I tried typing that into my Desmos, I will notice that my quadratic does not cross the x-axis. So for the last problem, it had 2 places where it crossed the x-axis, so there were 2 solutions. For this one, if I tried to type this in my calculator, it would tell me there was a non-real answer, because there is no solution. There's no location where those x-intercepts, or the graph crosses the x-axis, so no x-intercepts. Sometimes you'll see them say non-real answers.